title of the talk today is called How Uplifting. It's taken from a statement that Jesus said right before the problems that he encountered in Jerusalem during the Holy Week of Passover. He said, "If I be lifted up, I will draw all people unto me." Now that's been used to describe sort of a foreshadowing of the idea of him being lifted up on a cross. All the people then, and all their sins and so forth, being drawn to him, and him being this way of propitiation of sin. Well, you know, that just doesn't fit into his overall message very well. It fits into the message that was described about him later very well, but not much in how things were, how he had been heretofore describing his idea of the kingdom of heaven that dwells within each and every one of us. If I be lifted up, I draw all people unto me. Spoken from the idea that Jesus was constantly preaching was that he lived in a place of pure consciousness. He lived in a place where no longer was he associating his physical self as that being the only reality that existed for him in life. He'd gone beyond that at some point. At some point in his life, he'd gone way beyond that. It's almost as though he had gone within in prayer and dissolved his personal self into the oneness and the unity of what he called the Father within. So, taken from that sort of point of view, the idea of if I be lifted up, I draw all people unto me, is the idea of if I raise my consciousness, if I lift myself in consciousness, all people are drawn unto me. I'll give you an example of that. For a long time, I had an extreme difficulty with meditation. I just couldn't get it. I would become still. I would listen to the instruction from the person who was leading it. And at some point in this time, I'd hear somebody snoring. Or actually, I would feel somebody snoring, and it was me. And I would come to these meditation classes and I would say, how do you keep from falling asleep? And no one could ever really say to me how I should go about doing this. Until one day I heard Deepak Chopra make this statement. He said, meditation, the art of meditation occurs in the space between thoughts. And I took that to be an incredibly profound statement. As I do also the idea, if I be lifted up, I draw all unto me. Now here's what happened for me in meditation. As I stopped taking classes with beginners in meditation and started attending events or meditations themselves with people who had meditated for years and years before me, I suddenly realized that my meditations were deeper, more profound. I wasn't falling asleep, and I could actually attain that space between thoughts. Of course, immediately when I got to that place, the personality inside of me would say, I'm doing it, and it was gone. Strange, isn't it, how that occurs? Got to be able to stay in that place, a little place in between those. Jesus was there. He lived there. He had his being there. So as he is lifted up, Oh, and he could go in and out of this anytime he wished. He could be in the physical, if you needed him to be in the physical, or he could draw within himself so easily and attain this oneness, So when the time came for this trial that he went through on sedition, that's what he was tried for. He was tried for sedition, as though he was trying to overcome the state, that he was trying to start a revolution. He was tried for that and found guilty and crucified. He had been saying all along to his followers, to his disciples, and to others around us, he'd been saying this: if I be lifted up, will draw on all unto me, and you'll see me again. I'm not going to die as you picture death. Well, how could that be? There he was hanging there, he breathed his last gasp, was taken down, put into a sepulcher, so forth. The story goes that he was not found there later on. Here's where it gets difficult for the human mind. Here's where it gets really, really difficult. This is where to believe this story in actuality, as though it was an actual event, gets very, very difficult. Unless you allow your consciousness to be lifted up. Then you can start grasping it. You see, the problem with this story is that if we try to take it on a literal level, our mind just won't go there. It just won't go there. But if we take it on a spiritual level, we don't have to allow our mind to go there. It's already there, and has always been, and will always be. No beginning, no end, constantly in this now, holy now moment. When his disciples, and when any of us reach that point in our life where we connect more with the center of absolute being and less with this outer finite world, the more we recognize the presence within us. That's what Charles Fillmore called meditation. Practicing the presence. Fillmore also said this: if you're waiting in the outer for the second coming, you wait in vain, because in the second coming occurs to each one of us when we become aware of the Christ within. To him and to me, many of you, this is the resurrection. This is the understanding of what's going on in that story that is so hard to understand when it's put into words. Because it's not a story about words. It's not a story about actions or deeds, as it appears to be. It's a story about an experience within. And a story about an experience within. That's why the people that saw Jesus later didn't recognize him. Because the occurrence was not about an appearance in a physical form. It was something that occurred within them that changed them. Changed them and made them realize that, my gosh, he's right. The essence of who he was did not die because, and here's the little catch on the whole thing. In the physical, it never had a life. You understand that? Because life has beginning and story and end, as we understand it in the physical. But in spiritual, it never had a beginning, never will have an end. It is eternal. So this lifted up that Jesus was trying to express to people was the idea that there was a place within him, and it's not like, as is stated, it's not a place like a raisin inside a bun. It's not like that. It's a permeating quality that exists in every atom of our being, that exists in the very knowledge and love that exists in every atom of who we are. You could separate all those atoms, take them all apart, and it would still be there. You could watch the flesh deteriorate back into dust, and it would still be there. It continues on and on and on. Words are so difficult for me or anyone to describe. When I say on and on and on, our minds immediately go to tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. Some kind of time thing. This is beyond time. This has nothing to do with time, space, or anything else. It is so mysterious, mystical. And yet, it's the real existence for every one of us. When you think about a resurrection of a human being, think not of Jesus. Think instead of Lazarus. That's a resurrected human being. Instead, when you think of Jesus and what happened in his story, think instead of that which exists within every one of us. Eternal, timeless, boundless. It has no opposite. It simply is. That's why we call it I am. It's a now thing that's occurring as an isness. Take this story of this resurrected person and carry it with you, as did the disciples of 2,000 years ago. Carry the idea of this with every person you've ever had that has gone on in their transition before you. Know that they are not gone. They are simply changed. The same thing occurs for Jesus. You know, I had a really good friend growing up in school and knew him from just a little kid. We grew up together. He was Jewish. I didn't know what that meant. I had no idea. I didn't know what Jewish or Catholic or anything else meant when I was growing up. I just knew that I had friends and we played and we had a good time together. Finally, somewhere in high school or something, I started seeing these people wanting to make these divisions and so forth. Little peer groups started forming, and it became more important to be cool and that sort of thing. But I still hung with him, and people asked me, you know, why are you hanging out with him? He's Jewish. So I went to him and I asked him, are you Jewish? And he said, yeah. What does that mean to be Jewish? And he said, well, we just have a different way of looking at life and so forth. And it's a religion. I said, well, do you have the same, is it close to mine? He said, no, it's pretty different. We don't see Jesus as anything more than just a prophet and so forth. And I said, well, do you read the Bible? He said, sure. We read what you call the Old Testament. To us, that's the Bible. I said, what about the New Testament? He said, I don't like the New Testament. I said, why don't you like it? He said, because the hero dies in the end. We remain friends and will forever. He's gone from this plane. We are friends. We'll always be friends. But you know, he didn't get it. He didn't get that part. It was a great joke, and we both laughed over it, and it was funny. But the true way that story ends is that the hero never dies. That's the important part of it. Is Jesus the person who takes all the sins of the world upon him? Yeah, if you like that myth. That's a good one. Works out pretty well for a lot of people. If you want to accept the idea that you and Jesus are one, you've never been parted from one another, you and Buddha are one, you've never been parted from one another. You and Lao Tzu are together and one, never been parted. Then you're getting closer and closer to the idea of being lifted up, drawing all people together. You'll get the idea that when you are around people of a higher vibration of consciousness, that you will expand your own. It's very similar to playing music with people that are better than you are. You get better. You play music with people that are of the same quality or lesser, you stay there. So seek out those of like mind. Learn as much as you can from one another and be on that plane of existence where Jesus was and still is. We see him as a great example for that which we can attain. He told us that we would attain it. These things that I do, you too will do, and even greater things, he tells us. Sleep on that. Think on that. Carry that in your heart, and you realize that this is a wonderful day, a day of true rebirth,